Okay, so we've got another big Avaya launch that just happened. Avaya had a previous launch this year, but in the biggest of Avaya, Lucent, AT&T's entire history, they've never had something that had so many products and offerings at any given time. So they had to actually chop it up. They took part of it and kind of made that the communication manager and session manager. Think of it as almost as core telephony and core communications, and put that in the July launch. Well, the second part of that is coming with more of a collaboration side to this. And that just happened this week, at least as we are filming this. So very cool stuff there, but one of the biggest announcements in there is this thing that a lot of us have been talking about for ages called Mojo. Everybody, if you've heard of Mojo, you know the first rule of Mojo is you don't talk about Mojo. Well, that was painful for me because I'd been hearing all these people discussing it, and yeah, I knew everything about it, but because I was under NDA, I couldn't talk about it. Well, the problem was everybody was talking about it wrong, and I couldn't even correct it. So a lot of people want to think Mojo is this tablet thing that Avaya is coming out with. And while yes, that tablet, we're kind of thinking that of the Avaya desktop video device, is part of the Mojo concept, it's not what it is all defined. It's not the whole deal. It's all of the stuff around it. In fact, what defines Mojo is the official term called the Avaya Flare Experience. Keyword being experience. It's a user interface that is made up of a whole bunch of different things. For one, Avaya had to start out with a platform that was a little bit more fit for purpose when we start this. So it needed high definition audio, high definition video. And this isn't what Cisco released or even what Avaya or Apple's got with the iPad. This is not a general computing platform. It's a communication platform. It's a collaboration device. And the Avaya Flare Experience is put on top of that. But behind the scenes, there's a whole bunch of stuff, also part of the launch, that goes with that. So we're talking about Avaya's video conferencing solution. We're talking, it's in some aspects Avaya's 1X Communicator 6.0. We're talking, the concept around meeting exchange, which is now Avaya Aura conferencing. And so a lot of very cool things happening with this. Let's talk about some of those. 1X Communicator, the video component at least finally supports 64-bit operating systems such as Windows 7. I'm a Windows 7 guy. I love it. This is the greatest OS in the world. And I run 64-bit. Communicator now works on that. So that's all good. The other thing that we're talking about is the collaboration server. This is awesome because if you want to get into the Avaya Flare experience, you need to have a whole bunch of stuff. You need to be kind of going down this sequenced application path. You need Session Manager. You need Communication Manager feature server. Well, this takes all of those required components. It even requires Meeting Exchange 5.2.1 or the new Avaya Aura conferencing. You need all of those to make the experience work. Well, maybe you don't have all of them, and maybe you want to try it. Maybe you want to dip your toe into this. Well, Avaya's got the collaboration server that allows you to do just that. It runs on System Platform, which is Avaya's Zen-based virtual environment that allows you to put multiple servers on one device. However, it is limited to 50 users right now. That number is going to skyrocket over the life of this thing. In the next several months, we're going to see that going up, 2,000 endpoints. But for today, we're saying 50 users that are working on this. Great way to dip your toe into this. One that I am most excited about, I'm excited about the whole launch, to be honest, but another one that's big for me is this Web.Alive. We talked about it on the show several episodes back because Kevin Kennedy talked about it at VoiceCon and kind of showed this concept of you walking around a virtual environment. I mean, this is what social media is all about. And I'm not talking Facebook, I'm not talking, although it could be, but it's about how do you interact with people. Typically, conference bridges are all, here's your participant code, here's your host code, and if you want to make it public or private, it's all these settings, which that's not how we would meet in real life. We would walk into a room, we would close the door, we would use a whiteboard on the wall, And that's exactly what's happening here. If you're familiar with Second Life, it's a virtual environment where you have avatars and you can have sidebar conversations, you can do all these things. Well, picture that concept in an enterprise. So the opportunities and the options for this are unlimited, but we're going to see it as a user interface. So Avaya's whole collaboration launch happening now. It's new, it's cool. Check this thing out.
Hey Dave, where are we going to see the savings with SIP? Are we going to see it in the local or long distance toll charges?
You know, the answer is yes, sure. You know, when we think of SIP trunks, we're really not even thinking of local versus long distance. Maybe architecturally you may see more long distance in what you're trying to do because of where the bigger cost savings is around hardware. So again, local versus long distance, you know, let's just summarize that into the toll associated with getting a traditional trunk in. The problem is with that math, your numbers are already really low. I mean, people just aren't paying that much for local and long distance anymore. It really comes in with the infrastructure and absolutely the hardware to get from the trunk to wherever you were trying to go. You know, usually it ends up in some kind of an adjunct, like maybe voicemail, maybe an IVR, interactive voice response, like a voice portal from Avaya, or maybe to a person who needs to answer the phone, or maybe in probably bigger scenarios, the contact center. You've got all of these trunks, especially in big call centers, that you're bringing all of that in. That becomes kind of problematic when we're talking TDM because you have to go through something to get to your final destination. If I can convert all of that to SIP, and as more of my adjuncts become SIP-based, as more of my end users become SIP-based, I no longer have to go through something. It all becomes virtualized. The idea of a CSU is gone. The idea of a TN464 GP circuit pack is gone. What replaces it to some degree is an SBC, and we've talked about that, session border controller. But ultimately, you know, the hardware as a whole starts to just disappear. So there are certainly some things about local and long distance and toll savings. You might get a better rate because you're consolidating. You don't have all these trunk groups all over the place. You're bringing it all into one. But I'm venturing the biggest of the cost savings is going to be around hardware. So SIP, pretty cool stuff, man.
Hey, so here we are sitting at a virtual environment. I mean, can you believe this? We're going to do an interview and get a tour of this place. But this is Avaya's new Web.Alive that was announced as part of their September collaboration launch. But you know, what we really need are some of the experts here. And I'm looking around for Chris and Arn. Let's see. Oh, here they are. Let's go talk to these guys. Hey, Chris, Arn, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
How are you? Good to see you.
Oh my gosh, this is awesome! I was just telling the audience we're at Web.Alive as part of the new September launch that Avaya just came out with, and obviously we're here a little bit before that launch in preparation. But talk about exciting!
Yeah, we're totally amped about this big launch. It's cool.
So now, I know you guys, but why don't do me a favor and introduce yourself to the audience, and let's find out who you are. What do you do for Avaya?
All right.
You go first, Aaron.
Okay, perfect. I'm the chief architect for the Web.Alive project at Avaya for this product we're in right now. So I'm the technical guy, if you like. I love this stuff. It's piles of fun.
And a very cool shirt.
Thank you. Yeah, I threw on my Avaya T-shirt for this.
So I actually have to don the suit that has the Avaya logo on it. So I'm actually representing the business side of the Web.Alive equation. So I actually lead up the business development team for Web.Alive. So we're really excited about this launch, and obviously it's a great way to experience and collaborate with folks.
Well, you know, I know we're here a day before the actual launch, and I don't know about you guys, but it just seems like you're setting up for a rock concert. There's so much cool stuff going around us, and people are getting ready, and just visitors are popping in, and it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's a bit of an exciting atmosphere, right? So shall we give you a little tour?
Absolutely, that'd be great.
All right, well, why don't you come over here? One of the things we talk about with Web.Alive is we talk about how we can use it to meet people, sell to people, and learn. And one aspect of that is selling. And like right behind us here, we got a huge banner here. One of the cool things we can do is we can make the banner interactive. So we click on this big banner here, and you get a nice flashing line on the floor here that tells us where to go. So let's follow this line around and see where it goes. So this line brought us into this little room here, which is actually, you can see it's got lots of space on the walls here to put in any kind of decorations we want for advertising things, or potentially training materials, because also we use Web.Live for training. And you see on these stands behind you some products. On one side here we got a phone which we can interact with. So go ahead, click on the little buttons there. You check out the different colors the phone's available in. You can play with the stand. Potentially, we can use this for training people on how to use the new advanced features of phones or other devices we have. In the back there, there's a switch, which you can take apart. You can pull out the drawers and check it out.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, pretty cool, right? So this is part of how we use Web.Live for training. So we show people how to tear down some equipment, or learn how to use things. And Web.Live is often used for role playing and other types of training activities as well. And of course, we also use it for straight up meetings. So let's run her across the hall here to our big meeting room, and we can have a look.
Yeah, one of the other things too, I guess, when we talked about the training environment, is actual using it for support. And support, of course, is really about educating your customers. And when you educate your customers, it's at the end of the day, it's a really powerful selling tool.
One of the things that I'm noticing, as we're moving around, is the spatial audio, and that really, it's a subtle little touch, but it really helps us to understand who's talking, where things are happening, and give you that real, boy, we're really here.
Yeah, exactly. It turns out that spatial audio is actually really helpful. It's not just fun. It makes a difference to keeping track of who's who in a meeting. You don't have to think about it. You can just hear that Chris is on my left and Dave's on my right or whatever, and that lowers the mental effort it takes to keep things going in a meeting.
That's I already have to tell us that we're out of time, but we're going to continue this interview and this demonstration. So if anybody wants to follow us, we're going to have our producers put a website down on the screen that you can go to and watch the rest of this demo and interview. So for those of you that are done, thanks for joining us, and boy, for those of you that are going to stick around, we look forward to it. So for the people leaving us, Chris and Arn, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So social media is something that we talk about quite a bit on the show. Me as Chief Technology Officer, my job is to identify what is bright and shiny that's going to become mainstream. So I've been talking about social media for a long time, and most importantly, how we bring it into the enterprise. But we're really starting to see it go mainstream with actual physical, tangible, purchasable products today. But we still have to make sure everybody understands how it fits into the enterprise, and specifically, maybe, in my opinion, into the contact center. One of the biggest things about social media is the fact that in the old days, anybody could have an opinion, but if they didn't have a ton of followers, they weren't very influential. Well, now anybody with a blog, anybody with a Twitter account, anybody with Facebook, and something interesting to say can very quickly develop a pretty influential following. And so the question is, when they talk about your products, and I'm really gearing this towards consumers. So if your company sells to consumers, that becomes interesting. You need to be paying attention, because if the tree falls in the woods and nobody's there to hear it, does it actually make a sound? Directly applies to this. Just because you may not be listening to your customers in the traditional ways, or in those traditional ways, doesn't mean they're not talking about you. Most companies would say, hey, I've got a call center. If a customer has a problem, they can call me and we will deal with it. Well, that's great, but today's world is... let's face it, it's a little bit more passive-aggressive. They'd rather talk about you on a blog, and this is where I found all my information. I go search for opinions. The question is, what are they saying about you, and can you get those mentions into the system? We have a ton of great ways to do that. Again, actual physical products that Cross has developed, whether it's popping a tweet on a phone or a mention on an IP phone, whether it's integrating into the contact center with CCE, or maybe even Avaya's social media gateway. Taking all of the mentions and boiling them down to actionable things that can be done by a contact center agent. Social media in the contact center, it's cool. Check it out. So what we're going to do today is a little bit of grilling. You know, one of my favorite things to grill is actually pizza. You know, for me, it's one of those things that it's great for family and friends and entertaining, because everybody gets to be involved in the grilling process. Usually it's the grill master, which I like to think of myself as. Most guys do, but this gets everybody involved. And so everybody gets to make the kind of pizza that they like. So to start out, we need to get the dough going, and that takes about an hour and a half. So you got to start on that ahead of time to, you know, let it rise and do all those things. So the recipe I like to use is pretty easy. We start out with 3 cups of bread flour, and that's a big difference between all-purpose and cake flour, because there's actually a higher amount of gluten, which is long strands of these amino acid proteins that basically make it chewy, and not good for cake, not good for cupcakes, anything like that. But boy, when it comes to bread and pizza dough, it's perfect. So we're going to do 3 cups of bread flour. I'm going to go ahead and put in a teaspoon, 1 teaspoon of salt. I tend to use kosher, but it's up to you. Also, I need 1 teaspoon of sugar. Some people actually like to do a little bit more than that, make the bread a little bit sweeter, but again, that's kind of personal preference. Next, I need 2 tablespoons of olive oil or vegetable oil. I tend to go with olive oil, but that's more of a personal preference. So I've got 1 in there, and I've got 2 in there. Next, I need to add some active dry yeast. I use the dry stuff. Works perfect for this. Got that, and then just add the water. And for the water, we're just going to use a cup. It's like 1 cup and maybe 2 tablespoons in there. So that kind of makes it all nice and neat. I'm going to add that in, and now we're just going to mix it all together as much as we can. You're going to see that it takes a little bit of a while to knead it in there and get everything going, but a lot of the process is really just waiting it out. Once we get that going, once we get that done, you'll see it gets a little bit chewy, a little bit stringy, and that's good. That's actually what lets us get the pizza dough very thin, so that ends up working out pretty well. So I tend to try to get it in as much of a ball as I can, and mixed up nice and good. Now what we're going to do is simply cover that up. And we'll let that rise. We're going to go with about an hour on that first rise, and you'll see it kind of expand, get big, and then what we're going to do is knock it down and kind of rework it a little bit and let it rise for a little bit again after that. And then from there, we're going to be in great shape. But here, next step, probably got to start on the veggies. So one of the next things we're going to need to do is get some of the ingredients prepared. And one of the things about grilling on, grilling pizza, because all the heat is really coming from the bottom, and normally that's not exactly how it works in a real grilling oven. We have to make sure to, I can't keep the pizza on the grill for very long, which means my meat has to be cooked. So anything that you're going to put on there, whether it's chicken or sausage, anything has to be done. So that works out easy for some of the smoked kind of meats, like if you have pepperoni's classic. The kids love pepperoni pizza. For me, I like to add in some Canadian bacon. I'm a Canadian bacon and pineapple guy. So maybe you just cut up in strips, something that is pretty easy to do. So if I've got Canadian bacon, I've got sausage. I love to cook up, just regular sausage links. You can get all kinds of cool flavors like apple, and this is I think a smoked chicken with mozzarella, and you kind of cook those up, dice them up. It work great on a pizza. But next thing we need to do is dig into some of the other veggies. Veggies are important to have. So again, we're just kind of preparing a whole bunch of stuff. I like to do some red onion. I love doing sun-dried tomatoes. They work out really well on a pizza. They tend to be a little chewy, so we have to almost saw them down. Let's see, what else do we have? We have some tomatoes, regular tomatoes. Some people like the fresh tomatoes on there. With these, you have to be a little careful because they tend to have a lot of moisture content. That can cause, you don't want a soggy pizza. So a lot of times I'll just kind of scrape out the innards and use it that way. Any ingredient you put on here that you can do thin is going to be perfect. So that way they'll heat through quick without needing to stay on the grill for very long. Some people like to keep these in strips. Some people like to chop them up. One of my favorite things to do is a roasted red pepper. Since I've got the grill stoked up pretty hot, let's go char this bad boy. So the key to getting a roasted red pepper is to get your grill really hot. Crank that baby up as much as you can. We're talking at least 500 degrees. And we're just going to char this thing. We're going to get it all nice and black, and then later on peel all that black off. So Susan, my wife, is the bread pizza dough roller extraordinaire. So she's going to be making those. Sometimes there's a combination of whether we like to do it, a bunch of little ones. Some people like to get it creative and they want to try little bits of a whole bunch of different kinds of pizzas. But we tend to just go straight for, a single serving. And if people want to share, if people want to do different things, that's great. But see, she's rolling out some flour, spreading it out. The whole trick is just getting it thin. So our next step is we've got to actually grill one side of the pizzas to give it some stability, and then that's when we give it back to your guests and your family to start. So what we're going to do is put a little bit of olive oil on it first. I usually drizzle some on and then use a brush to coat it, and just do one of these at a time. But you'll notice one thing that we did is we put wax paper in between them to keep them from just separate. But you do have to make sure you put enough flour on there so it doesn't eventually even stick to the wax paper. But notice all I'm doing is putting it directly on the grill. Nothing else on there, just sits right on there and it works out great. Now, I don't think we're going to get any awards for perfect circles. We'll kind of spot check them. It's usually, I don't know, about 3 or 4 minutes, something like that. And just kind of keep checking it to see when, those two are probably done. Okay guys, we're ready. Most of the cheese is melting, which is about as long as we get. We don't get to, you're not going to get a browned top pizza on this, just because, again, the heat that we've got going on the bottom. But I'll pull off the ones that look done to me. I'm going to move some of these ones that have taking a little bit longer. I'm going to move them to a little more indirect heat so we don't toast any more of the bottom. Let those cook a little bit longer. In the meantime, I can start cutting these up. Where are the tacos? I love tacos. I need a pudding bop. Have you ever had shag in your van? If this van's a rockin', don't come and knock it. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Easy like Sunday morning.